Good morning, good afternoon to those watching.
The crowd had already started clapping for the wrong person. Flags from 14 nations hung motionless above the arena. 8,000 spectators, 3 judges at the scoring table. Cameras from 4 international networks pointed at the podium, where a tall, broad-shouldered European champion was already raising his fist. Then the final score appeared on the board. Silence. Not polite silence. Not respectful silence. Shocked silence. A woman nobody had expected to win, nobody had even expected to compete, stood at lane 7, lowering her rifle with both hands. Calm. Still. Like the land she came from. Her name was Kaya Swiftwind. She was 6'2". She was 26 years old, and she had just broken the International Target Championship record by 4 points. Nobody moved. Nobody clapped. Because nobody, not one person in that arena, had seen her coming. Ashit. Where she came from. 3 months earlier, Kaya was standing barefoot on red earth in the early morning, watching the sun rise over the hills of her reservation in Montana. She was tall even then, always had been. The kind of tall that makes strangers stare, coaches recruit, and her grandmother laugh. You were made to see farther than everyone else, her grandmother used to say. So use it. Kaya had grown up shooting, not for sport, for food, for survival, for the kind of precision that doesn't come from expensive training facilities. It comes from hunger, from patience, from breathing the same cold air as your target before you even touch the trigger. She had never competed internationally. She had barely competed at all. The closest thing to a training facility she had was a weathered shooting range her father built from salvaged wood behind their house. The floor was uneven. The targets were hand-painted. The wind came from every direction. And she was perfect on it. Her father, Raymond Swiftwind, a quiet man, 6'4", hands like bark, had taught her one principle. The rifle doesn't know what you look like. It only knows if you're steady. Kaya had been steady her whole life. Act 2. The invitation. No one expected her to accept. The invitation came through an email she almost deleted. The International Target Championship, held in Zurich, Switzerland, was the most prestigious civilian marksmanship competition in the world. 16 nations, 48 competitors, televised across 3 continents. A regional coordinator from the U.S. Shooting Federation had watched a video, a grainy, shaky phone video someone posted on a local community page, of Kaya hitting 12 consecutive bullseyes at 300 meters in crosswind conditions. He sent the email on a Tuesday. Kaya read it on a Thursday. She almost laughed. Me? Zurich? She looked around her kitchen, the cracked window, the photo of her grandmother above the stove, the worn boots by the door. She typed 2 words back. I'm in. What she didn't tell the coordinator, what she didn't tell anyone, was that her grandmother had passed away 4 weeks earlier, and the last thing she had said to Kaya, squeezing her tall granddaughter's hand from a hospital bed, "Go be seen, baby. We've been invisible long enough." Act 3. Zurich. The world she walked into. She landed in Switzerland on a gray Tuesday morning with 1 bag, 1 rifle case, and 0 sponsors. The other competitors arrived with entourages, coaches, analysts, media handlers, custom equipment worth more than her truck back home. Tall, elite, decorated athletes from Germany, Norway, South Korea, Australia. They were all tall. They were all trained. They were all funded. When Kaya checked in at the competitor registration desk, the woman behind the counter glanced at her paperwork and then back up at her. "Are you the U.S. representative?" "Yes, ma'am." The woman smiled, politely, professionally. But Kaya had lived long enough to understand the pause behind the smile. "You don't look like what we were expecting." In the practice rounds, she attracted quiet curiosity. Competitors would slow their pace walking past lane 7. Coaches would glance sideways. Journalists assigned to the story of the week had already identified the German champion, Eric Brandt, 6'3", 4-time gold medalist, as the inevitable winner. Nobody asked Kaya for an interview. Nobody asked her anything. She didn't mind. She had brought her grandmother's photo. She propped it against the inside of her rifle case before every session and whispered the same thing. I see you. Stay close. Her practice scores were good, very good, but she kept them invisible. Quiet rounds, restrained performance. She didn't want anyone adjusting their strategy because of her. She was still hunting. She just hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Act 4, Competition Day. The arena seated 8,000. Every seat was filled. The format was simple. 3 elimination rounds, with the bottom scorers cut after each. Final round, 6 competitors, 10 shots each. Highest cumulative score wins. Kaya moved through the first 2 rounds like water. Efficient, unshakable. She didn't celebrate her scores. She didn't react to the board. She just walked back to her lane, checked her grandmother's photo, and breathed. By the semifinals, 2 things had happened. 1, Eric Brandt was having the best competition of his career, visibly electric, crowd chanting his name. 2, a reporter had noticed Kaya's numbers. A young journalist named Mia Chen from an Asian American sports outlet. One of the few journalists in that building paying attention to Lane 7. She found Kaya between rounds. Can I ask you one question? Kaya looked at her. 1. Why are you so calm? Kaya was quiet for a moment. Then, because I've been practicing in the wind my whole life. This arena? No wind at all. Mia wrote it down. Her hands were shaking. ACV. The final round 6 competitors. Lane 7. 10 shots. The crowd was pulsing for Brandt. His first 9 shots were near perfect, a score that would have won any previous championship in the event's history. Kaya was last to shoot. Competition rules. She stepped to the line. 8,000 people, cameras. The score she needed, to tie, to beat, to shatter, was visible on the board above her. She didn't look at it. She looked at her lane. She looked at her hands. She felt the familiar weight of the rifle. She thought of her father's weathered range, of red earth at sunrise, of her grandmother's voice. Go be seen. She took a breath. She shot. 1. Perfect. 2. Perfect. The crowd began to shift. Murmurs, people straightening in their seats. 3, 4, 5. Perfect. 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 By shot 7, the arena had gone completely silent. Even Brandt, standing at the edge of the competitors' area, had stopped talking to his coach. 8. Perfect. 9. Perfect. 1 shot left. Kaya paused. Not from nerves. She paused the way you pause at the top of a mountain before you take the last step. The pause of someone who knows. She exhaled. 10. The shot rang out. The target registered. The scoreboard updated. 4 points above the all-time record. The silence lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then the arena erupted. The moment that changed everything. Eric Brandt, 4-time champion, the man the crowd had come to celebrate, walked across the competitor's floor. He stopped in front of Kaya Swiftwind. He extended his hand. That, he said, his voice rough with something genuine, was the greatest shooting I have ever witnessed. Kaya shook his hand, nodded once. Tall, steady, still. The head judge, a 70-year-old Swiss official named Hans Gruber, who had run this championship for 22 years, walked to the microphone. He had never done what he did next. He turned to face Kaya. He placed his hand over his heart, and he bowed. The entire judging panel followed. 8,000 people rose to their feet. Mia Chen was crying in the press section. She had already filed her headline. She came from a backyard range in Montana. She just broke the world. Epilogue. Going home. 2 weeks later, Kaya stood again on red earth in Montana. Same sunrise, same hills, same worn boots. The gold medal was in her bag, not around her neck. She would hang it above her grandmother's photo. That was the only podium that mattered. Her father came out from the house with 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one. He looked at the hills for a long moment. Your grandmother knew, he said. I know, Kaya said. They stood there, tall and quiet, watching the sun climb. The wind came, like it always did, from every direction, and she didn't flinch. If you believe courage has no face, no flag, and no limit, comment honor.